Hey everybody, this is Dave, Flat Earth Dave. I'm here with Andre the Alchemist 369. That's your channel, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we are going to have a discussion about how this realm works. Andre has a model I think he wants to show us, and we're going to start off with that. So, Andre, take it away.
Yeah, man. First, first off, Dave, I just want to, thank you for the opportunity, and I want to give you your flowers for what you're doing for humanity by waking them up to the true nature of reality and like what this place is. What you are doing is so important because people really need to understand that we live in a creation and it's intelligently designed. And once you wake up to this, you can wake up to everything. So thank you for what you've been doing.
I appreciate it. That's why I did this because this is the one that snaps people out of their comas and lets them see the world for definitely what it isn't and trying to figure out what it is.
Yeah, for sure. And that's really what I've been doing. And leaving my body, I've came to understand that we do in fact live in a creation, a construct, very similar to what Darius J. Wright, teaches. That's a fact. And then once I woke up to that fact, I'm like, okay, how does it work? Like what makes this place tick? How what if we live on a flat earth model, how do we explain gravity? How do we explain the seasons? What are the moon phases, the tides, all of that. So that's what I did. And I came up with these slides that I'm about to share with you. This is a portion of a bigger presentation where I go in to get into about, how the realms are separated and how to implement these things into your life. But I do have a couple slides to share with you guys and try to explain what I've been able to uncover. All right. So the mechanics of this place. This is essentially what this place looks like, more or less. There is a flat plane of existence, and we do have a core. A lot of people refer to this core as the black sun. In a lot of ancient texts, you'll hear a lot of civilizations mention the black sun. And then, there's a sun and a moon and a toroidal field around this place, right? Now, people need to understand the system is engineered, like creation is not an accident. There is structure, there is intention, there is energy flow, and there is containment, right? It's an enclosed system, an enclosed energy system, and it essentially creates a whole circuit. And this is how it basically works. So the core is like the hidden power source. This is the glue of this entire realm, the entire construct. Everything is generated from this core. And what it is it's made of plasma. I don't know how familiar you are with plasma, but plasma is crazy. It's the fourth state of matter. It's plasma is the fourth state of matter. And so imagine a gas substance with all the electrons and ions moving around pretty sporadically, right? But they still have a form or a boundary. Now, take electrons and ions, have them together, but have them have no boundary, no limitations. That's plasma. And what this does is it causes a number of strange phenomena. And plasma, the 99% of the entire universe is made up of plasma, right? So this plasma here, it generates a toroidal field because what plasma does, this is just a characteristic of plasma. You guys can look this up. So plasma, when it's static, it creates a toroidal field similar to that of a magnet, right? And this is what creates a toroidal field is this plasma. So there's a large ball of plasma here, and there's different types of plasma, just like there's different types of gases. We have helium, oxygen, right? So there's many different types of plasma. But what this does is it creates a toroidal field that powers and shapes the entire realm. This is what establishes directionality, what we call up and down. Because when you have a force like this, creating a toroidal field, constantly pushing energy down, this is what gives us the sensation of down versus up, is this, right? And when I was figuring this out, I was like, okay, but how does it really work? And what came to me was, I was in this state where I was leaving my body halfway out, halfway in, and I kept getting flashes of images of this, right? Real big across my face. And I was like, okay, how does it work? And
So
they
you're
were like,
doing
it breathes.
OBEs. You're
Yeah,
having outer body experiences,
yeah, yeah,
and that's how
yeah,
you saw this.
yeah, for
Okay,
sure.
okay, okay.
Yeah. And yeah. And so I'm like, how does it work? And they kept telling me it breathes, it breathes. So what that means is this expands and contracts, right? This is another characteristic of plasma. This is all duplicated. You can duplicate all of this, right? So this expands and contracts. And this expansion and contraction is what drives the seasonal and atmospheric cycles of this place, you know, and it generates a magnetic field that orients all living and physical systems here. And as well as this serves as a communication medium between realms and vibrational states. So everything in this entire creation stems source here. Um, and this is what actually creates the breathing field. So the realm operates in cyclical rhythms at every scale, right? We have a yearly scale where, you know, that drives the seasons. The moon phases is cyclical. Everything is cyclical here. You know, light, magnetism, and biological systems follow predictable patterns, you know. So this expansion and contraction of this plasma generator is what creates the day and the night, the seasons and the growth phases, the tides, gravitational magnetic fluctuations, sleep, wakefulness, emotional and creative waves, right? This creates all of that. And I'll get into how exactly in a little bit, but we can model these cycles as a toroidal flow, you know, energy rising, circulating, and returning, right? And everything reacts to this, right? Uh, and understanding this rhythm, it allows us to work with creation and not against it, right? And then this is just a video I have of um, plasma, right? Because these are the sun and the moon are also plasma. The moon is not a physical place. It's made up of plasma. It's a different form of plasma. This is a reflective plasma. This is why we are able to see the map of this realm on the moon, right? Because this is generating a lot of energy, right? And the sun is a different type of plasma as well. The sun actually gets its energy from this, right? A lot of people think we get the energy from the sun, like the sun is this energy source. It's not really that. The sun would be like a light bulb, and the light bulb is not the source, right? It's not the source of the energy. What's the source of the energy? The outlet. This is the outlet. Um, so this causes everything, right? So essentially, what happens is when you have two smaller plasma bodies and a larger plasma body, what happens is these get caught in a circuit, right? And this is just a characteristic of plasma. And this video here details that because once you have a magnetic field, plasma rides the magnetic field current. You know, plasma literally rides magnetic fields. So we'll get into gravity. So what's gravity, right? In this creation, gravity is essentially density and magnetism. You know, density determines the direction. It density does the sorting, right? Higher, more dense things sink, lower dense things rise, right? Everything's trying to find its level. Everything's, you know, level of buoyancy. The toroidal fields provides a magnetic sense of down. So density does the sorting, but this magnetic force field generated by the core is what generates things down. So that's what gives
Is it a
its
magnetic?
direction.
Is it a magnetic or electrostatic force that
It's
says down? Like is
it's
it that it's creating a toroidal field and it's all heading down from that field? So is that magnetic or electric?
Yeah, that I don't know. I didn't get that far yet.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. I'm
They're
not
they're brother
sure.
and sister, so they go side by side.
Yeah, yeah. I do know that the magnetic field though is what gives us a sensation of down, but that's a good point. I can clarify that as well as
I
I
talk
look
about the
further into this.
electrostatic. There is a measurable electric flow from up to down, and then density and buoyancy sort everything else out. And then we can
Yeah,
manipulate that electrostatic flow by changing the charge of something, and it goes up, and it goes down depending on what you do. So we're on the same page. Go ahead.
yeah, for sure. And So, what we call fallen is just objects seeking equilibrium. Higher density moves in the lower energy regions, just like oil rises above water or helium rises above air. You know what I mean? And structure and flow creates orientation. Down equals towards the field's return path, and up equals towards the outward flow. Because the system's always circulating inward, right? So in short, density gives it the structure, but the field is what gives it direction. And what exactly that field is I'm not sure, but there is a magnetic field, for sure, toroidal field. Um, all
It's
right, so
interesting. Plasma is the hottest topic of this year, 2025. I have
is
this
it?
plasma generator that is amazing. Jeff Berwick talks about one he has, and plasma is something that needs to be looked into much deeper.
Yeah, for sure. And like as I was figuring this out, I'm like, oh, plasma is the key. It's the key to everything here. And for sure, I'm going to be looking into it more myself. Like this is where it's taken me to understand the universe is plasma for sure. Um, yeah, so essentially what happens is, so this is how the sun and the moon ride, right? The sun and the moon follow natural cycles that are predictable and rhythmic, right? These patterns can be visualized like elements in an electromagnetic circuit, right? And when you have plasma caught in a magnetic field, it rotates around it, right? And here's a demonstration of what I mean. Um, this is just a quick little example. Um, So you're going to create a magnetic field with two magnets, right? This is going to simulate a toroidal field, and the plasma rotates around it, right? This is how the sun and moon are. So the core creates here. I'll pause it here. So essentially, the core creates a magnetic field similar to this. This is also creating a magnetic field with two magnets, right? So that's what the core does. And if the sun and moon are plasma, which they are, they literally ride and circulate around the magnetic field. So that's really what's going on in this model. So this creates a
That
magnetic field.
you said that the sun on the bottom, the plasma ball underneath, it expands and contracts. Is that expansion and contraction what makes the sun go in and out? Maybe.
Yeah, exactly, man, exactly.
Okay.
So yeah, so yeah, that's exactly. And I think I get into that in the next slide. Yeah. So when this expands, right, this is generating more energy. Therefore, the force field is stronger. This is when the sun will rotate around closer inward. I believe it's the Tropic of Cancer or maybe Tropic of
Yep.
one of
Yeah.
those.
Cancer is on the
That's
inside.
yeah. So the Tropic of Cancer, and that's when we'll have summer in the northern hemisphere, and that's when this thing will be emitting more energy, right? And when it contracts, it lessens the field, and that therefore the sun is then able to ride the magnetic current outward, and that's when we'll have summer in the southern hemisphere, right? And the same thing. So the sun is the expression of this core, and the moon is the reflection, right? There, everything is balanced here. Um, so let's see, let's get into the next thing. So yeah, so inner and outer tracks equals the seasons, energy charge equals the moon phases, right? So what I mean by that is the inner and outer track. So as it's expanding and contracting, we have the sun rotating inward or rotating outward. But the energy charge of the core is what causes the moon phases. When there's more energy charge, we have a full moon, right? Because as the system expands in energy, the moon appears fuller and brighter. This is why when people say, "Oh, there's a full moon," it's getting crazy. The energy is rising here, and things like that. That's because there's more energy being emitted here, by the core. So when there's more energy, that's when we have the full moon. Now, everything aligns with this because the full moon is a time for like peak outward emotional and psychic amplitude because there's just so much more energy in this place. Human behavior, mood, intuition, they all rise with this charge because the core powers the entire place, right? And then the new moon, when there is no moon in the sky, that's because it's emitting less energy, right? So that's when it's a good time to go inward, self-reflect, and all of that. Um, you know, yeah. So that's basically what I have, and then I go on to discuss why astrology is important, how Tartaria was tapping into this, why the pyramids are all aligned everywhere. Because when you can tap into, let's see here. So with the pyramids, when you can tap into what this place really looks like, and because this is a really this is a Stargate as well. This is how you can tap into the other realm. Um, so when you can tap into this frequency of this by aligning the location of something and with certain structural material, you're tapping into this field, right? That's why the pyramids were portals essentially, and energy generators and things like that. They understood this, and with placement, this creates grid lines all over the earth. The magnetic field from this core. And Tartaria was tapping into this. That's why they would ground their buildings, and then using mercury and things at the top of it, they would, I believe I have a slide detailing that. Yeah. So, mercury, so what they would do is tapping into this field, the ether, because there's energy all around us. When you ground something to the earth, and then you have a way to receive the energy up top, you're able to tap into the energy of this whole place. And mercury helps do that because it's the perfect conductor for the realm's electromagnetic breath, right? um and you're channeling energy from the core below, essentially. And these structures, they function like antennas. They received energy from the ether, redistributing flow to power the environment. It was literally like energetic participation in the mechanics of this realm. Instead of extracting the energy, you just tune into, like what already exists. And when you line up, and this goes into the whole structure of this whole construct, you know, when you understand all the stars line up to particular times and events within this place, because astrology is so important, because everything in this place is connected. Nothing is an accident, right? So when you start looking at this thing as a creation and engineered design, you start understanding that everything is connected. And this is why you're able to actually locate the pyramids simply by looking at the stars. Like there's this kid from Canada here who actually was able to discovered like all these pyramids in South America, because just by looking at the sky, by lining up, he found out that this guy was channeling something from beyond himself, and he was able to realize that through mapping out the sky, he was able to find locations of the pyramids here on Earth, because the ancients understood the creation of this place. You know what I mean? So everybody's known this.
Where can we
We're
find
just
more
like the
information
only.
on that, on what that kid did? How
Oh,
so yeah.
yeah,
You have
yeah.
a video on
So
that or anything?
I don't have a video on it, but there is a video discussing it somewhere. I literally just type in. You could type in Canadian teen once discovered an ancient temple using Google Maps. I can see if we can find the video.
Okay, no, you don't have to do it now. I'm sure people are going to want to look into it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would just Google this, and you can find this up. And when I found this out, a couple of years ago, even before I started leaving my body, as I was coming to understand that this is a creation. I looked this up, but yeah, that was amazing. So he was literally able to map it out just by looking at the stars, and
How did
he
you
led
learn
to
how
the
to do?
discovery.
How did you learn how to do it? Sorry to interrupt. How did you learn how to do OBE? Was that did you study under Darius J. Wright or some other way?
Yeah. I studied under Darius, for sure. I found him, like 2 years ago, and yeah, I've been working with him ever since, man. And he's opened up my eyes to a lot. And then what's so great about it is because he has all this wealth of knowledge, But he's not just telling everybody this knowledge. He's like, no, you guys can get out here and figure it out for yourself, and see these things for yourself. So that's kind of, what I've been doing is just leaving my body, seeing these things, confirming these things, seeing that we live in a construct of creation, and then trying to come back and figure out, okay, well, how does it work? And just explain it for people. So yeah.
When people say, what difference does the shape of the earth make? And I say, it's not the shape that matters, it's the lie that matters, because they're hiding all of this information. I mean, it's even more than just information. It's just understanding of who we are and what we can do and what this place is. So they're keeping us as little drone worker slaves for the corporations, when in fact we're these incredible creators that we should have access to all of this abundance. And that's why the lie. That's why the globe lie is just literally to keep us slaves.
Yeah, man. Because as soon as you can understand that we live in a creation, right, and this is a fine fixed place, what's the next question you're going to ask? Okay, who created it? And okay, who put me here? And wait, what exists outside of this creation then? You know what I mean? Like, those are all questions that you begin to ask. And when you bring people towards, this space lie, it makes you feel insignificant. You're like, oh, and you think of things in such a grander way, like everything's so grandiose and it's so hard to really understand. But once you understand that, hey, this is everything that there is here, you begin to it just wakens so much inside of you. The first questions are those ones that you're going to ask for sure. It wakes everything up.
That's cool information. I like it. How long you've been doing this for? Like 2 years, you said?
Yeah. I've been leaving my body for 2 years, shutting it down the way Darius teaches it anyways. But before that, I was always trying to extend my consciousness, man, trying to figure out how far can the human consciousness really go. Right. Like, I'm an engineer by trade. So I was always fascinated with the human mind, and that led me to like astral projection and like remote viewing and things like that. And then when I came across Darius and learned how to actually shut my body down and take my soul out of it, that just took everything to the next level for sure.
Nice. Where can people find you? What's the best way to see your work? Do you have this presentation in a video?
Yeah.
Or is this it right here?
Yeah. I have it in a whole video on my website. There's the whole presentation goes over, everything basically, how the construct's set up, why science is wrong, why Einstein's theory of gravity doesn't even work, so the model that all of space is built off of, like, there's holes in that theory. And, I point those
Nothing
holes
but
out.
holes. Nothing but holes.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, we can get into some of that. I mean, if you want, but
Sure,
yeah,
whatever you want.
People can find, I have a website, thealchemist369.com. I went over the whole presentation. That's in there. You guys can go in there, create an account and check out the whole presentation for sure. But yeah, so let's get into how, what I've been able to talk about as far as why his theory is incorrect. So, all right, so all right, so this entire system here is made up is made up of Einstein's theory of gravity, and this is where Einstein's theory of gravity comes in. All right, can you see it now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. Sorry about that.
All right.
If you were to take a planet, a ball, whatever it is, a rocket ship, and roll it, it would make a straight line in that space-time. Watch it up on the screen. I roll it, and it makes a straight line. But, according to Einstein, if you go and have a star, that star will bend space-time in that extra dimension that you can't see. So you can't see it bent up over there, but you can see it here.
Yeah, so essentially what he's saying is this would be space. This would be actually what we see, how we can't see it really bent, But in Einstein's theory, the sun is literally bending space-time, right?
Bent
This is where the issue comes into play, though. If even if that was true, which it's not, but even if.
space-time, if you roll the ball, see, now it looks like it's going around and around that planet. So according to Einstein, there is no connection between the star and the planet. What you have is the star bending the fabric of space.
All right, so I mean,
the problem with that is why does it bend it down? Why does it bend it every other way? It's so dumb. I say it's not the bending and warping of space time; it's the bending and warping of your mind, because nobody knows what it even means.
Yeah, and even in his model, right? Even let's just say, all right, for shits and giggles, let's just say the sun is in fact bending space, right? Even if it was. When you have a smaller mass like the Earth compared to the sun, they say, what's going to happen? It's not even going to orbit it. His whole theory is if it was moving at a certain speed, theoretically, it could maintain an orbit, right? That's theoretically, but we're not moving at that certain speed. And even if, all right, so in the Big Bang, everything's all sporadic, right? What would happen if you have all of these large masses everywhere? You would have the three-body problem. So even in the chaotic craziness of the universe and the Big Bang, you would have the three-body problem coming out. So it would not be a perfectly designed solar system with planets orbiting stars. You would have some crazy things like this going on everywhere, and nobody's ever been able to even solve that. So it creates his whole theory. It creates a number of issues that like nobody can solve, and it's all built off of assumptions and hypotheticals. Like you need to assume we're moving at such and such speed.
They like to say that mathematical models prove that the Earth is a ball, because you can make a mathematical model to describe anything, almost
everything.
Anything. But they can't come up with a mathematical model to explain the three-body problem, or 4 or 90 or a million body problem. They can't do it. So again, the helio nonsensical model is absolutely ridiculous, and it's embarrassing that people still believe it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and I say the same thing. So I'm an engineer, right? And I'm not just an engineer. I was an aerospace engineer, right? So we were making things for space. And I remember at Christmas dinner like 2 years ago with my company, I was sitting with the VP of the company, and I'm telling him, I'm like, you guys know space is not what they say it is, right? And they're like, what do you mean? Like our whole lives are built. Like that's what we all do for a living. And he's like, I try to explain to these guys what you just said, how you can make a model, they're like, the math checks out. I tried to explain to them how you can make a mathematical model to explain almost anything. It doesn't mean it's true. You know what I mean? When you think in those terms, it's not, you can do that about anything. It's not what it is. Yeah, for sure.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much it, man. I just wanted to, come in and try to do my part in putting some pieces together for some people and spark some debate. And I hope, somebody out here watching this is a critical thinker like myself and can even help me put more of the pieces together. Like this isn't the end all be all, but it is a foundation of things that I've put together that I know to be true through leaving my body, for sure.
I like it. I hope some people that will be interested in this reach out to you and collaborate, because that's how we get things done. We all put our minds together and, try to figure out this realm.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure.
All right. Well, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks for coming on, and interesting stuff. And I'll definitely be thinking about it.
Yeah. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And thank you for all that you do.
All right. Thanks.